Good morning, everyone. Last week when Bernie Marcus, the founder of Home Depot, spoke to the teens, he told the following story. He built a big aquarium, as you know, in Atlanta, the Georgia Aquarium. He invested $250 million of his own money into it. But now they're undergoing a big expansion, another $100 million expansion that's going to actually be completed in fall of 2020. And he said that he managed to do something that had never been done before in any aquarium. He managed to get sharks. I guess there was never a way to have sharks in an aquarium, the highest predators in the sea. He got 8 different types of sharks. But it was a big secret. He couldn't tell anyone because it was going to be a big surprise, a big PR stunt, to let everyone know they're going to have the only sharks in captivity anywhere in the world. So he sits down with the architects, he says, to tell them that he needs a fish tank, that could contain 1 million gallons of water. That's what he needed to fit these 8 sharks in. But he couldn't tell them why he needed it. So the architects who build aquariums all day said, you don't need a million gallon a tank. What for? There's no need to build a tank with 1 million gallons of water. He said, that's what I would need. You need to do this. They said, no, we're not doing it. There's no need for it. We've never done this. It's not been done. It can't be done. It shouldn't be done, blah, blah, blah. But he couldn't tell them why he needed it. So you know what he did? He said, okay, you're fired. He called another big architect for him. He says, did you ever build aquariums? They said, no, we've never done aquariums. He says, good, I want to hire you. Because these guys knew nothing. He said, listen, I need a fish tank, a tank to hold 1 million gallons of water. He said, fine, no problem, we'll build it. And the lesson, obviously, is that sometimes what we know gets in our way. Sometimes not knowing is better because we just do what we're told to do. Where do we find this idea? In this week's Parsha and in next week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha, the Jews are asked, do you want the Torah? So in this week's Parsha, they say one word. Whatever God says, we will do. In next week's Parsha, it says, the Jews said, whatever God says, na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. So here they just commit to doing. Next week's Parsha, they will do and they will listen. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs points out something brilliant, unbelievable. He says, pay attention to the verse. In this week's Parsha, when it talks about the commitment to do, it says the entire nation answered together, yachdav, and then later it says, kol achad, with one voice. But next week's Parsha, when it talks about na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do and we'll listen, it just says they answered whatever God said, na'aseh v'nishma. What's the difference? He said, when it comes to action, we all have to be with one voice together. There can be no difference between one person and the next. We all have to act, whatever Hashem tells us to do, we have to do. When it comes to nishma, understanding, that everyone can have their own level of understanding. No two people have the same level of comprehension of Hashem, of Torah. But when it comes to action, we all put on the same tefillin, we all keep the same Shabbos, we all do the same mitzvah of tzedakah. So there's room for disparity and differences amongst people when it comes to their comprehension and understanding, but not when it comes to action. Take, for example, in our country, you could have Republicans and Democrats, you could have 1 million views, that's great. But everyone has to do one thing together. You can't have one half the country doing one set of laws, another country doing we have to be one in our actions, although not necessarily one in our thinking and understanding. There's 70 faces to the Torah, as we know, many levels of interpretation. When it comes down to it, there's one Judaism, there's one set of commandments. We can't have different groups of Jews doing different things. There's one na'aseh, nishma, what we understand. Everyone's entitled to their own understanding and interpretations of the Torah. So when it comes to the commandments, whether you understand, you don't understand, Hashem understands more than we all understand. And if He says we should do something, do what Hashem asks you to do, even if you don't understand why, because ultimately Hashem commanded you and He has His reasons why. As someone once said, I once saw a bumper sticker, it said, don't believe everything you think. Just because you think something doesn't mean you should do what you think. Do what Hashem tells you is the right thing to do.